we have Jake and Sammy here as our guests because they are going to tell you why they're here.
Yeah, so we work at a camp up near Crested Butte, Colorado, and we're on a break from our job right now, so we came down to hang out in Santa Fe, visit the family, mostly the baby niece. She has the most pull, obviously, so that's been fun. We've gotten to hang out with her and with everyone, and yeah, it's been great.
Jake's been bringing everybody back to the mountain biking, doing a lot of mountain biking.
Bringing back, please.
I mean, seriously, you guys haven't been doing that much because we've been working on the fence project. Everybody here knows we were talking about the fence, and Jake came and they've been mountain biking all weekend.
Yeah, I know. I scumbagged everyone into taking time off of work, so just to fit my schedule.
That's not true. See, he is my favorite. Don't be so hard on yourself.
See what I have to deal with? Come on.
Oh gosh.
Anyways, yeah, got to ride a lot of bikes though. It's been fun.
Jonah brought home a souvenir.
I did. I decided to start my baseball career and work on a home plate slide while riding. Totally intentional, I swear. But yeah. But we're not here to talk about my boo-boos, even though, I could use some kisses on it. We are here to talk about something else. What is that, Jennifer?
Sammy and I had a conversation recently about how intimidated either of us are, which is funny because Sammy's not really intimidated by much of anything, to share opinions just lately, like in the last several months. I don't know if it's COVID, if it's the election, if it's whatever, but expressing opinions is you feel like you're putting yourself at risk. So we thought we'd talk about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've been talking a lot about, we realized opinion, and it can be kind of murky trying to discern what is opinion and what is fact, especially in today's day and age. So just for the context of this conversation, we're using the textbook definition of opinion, and that is a view or a judgment that's been formed on something that's not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. We're talking about something that we believe to be true, but we have not necessarily gone to the efforts to discern it and weigh it against truth, against empirical evidence to know that this is widely held as fact, right? Does that make sense? Is everyone okay with that definition?
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Cool.
Versus
a fact, which is going to be repeatable. Evidence, it's empirical evidence, or truth is something that is known and can be repeated time and time again, right? We're talking about a scientific type definition.
And also in the case of us as believers, using the Bible to also find those facts and truth versus that opinion.
Facts don't change, but opinions can.
Yeah, and a lot of this conversation centers around trying to discern what information you get is opinion and what information is truth. And really that delineation is about what information that's being thrown at you is viewed or knowledge that is just formed without really weighing the other side, right? We've never put it to the torture test to see if it falls short or not.
Yeah, I think as we go throughout our lovely little world, we interact with a lot of opinions. Everybody has opinions and everybody makes claims about one thing or another, and it can be really hard to decipher those and decide which ones are the right opinions and which ones are ones that we need to pay attention to. And I think in at least our current moment, there's a cost for holding a lot of opinions too. It's not just a cakewalk to have an opinion or a perspective on so much of what goes on. Sammy, do you have anything to say about the difficulty of forming opinions? Maybe it's just me that finds it difficult.
No, I mean I think for me it started in high school probably, and then moving out of the house and continuing to broaden my worldview has, or like my experiences in the world, has introduced me to a lot of new people and like new questions that I've never had to answer for myself before. And so I go back to the foundation that I was able to build in my upbringing and those things that I know that I hold to be true. And I think that can be hard to find good ways to articulate that to other people without kind of getting lost in the muckiness and the emotions and the feeling like this is so important and I don't want to mess it up. And so being able to start with a good foundation, the things I know to be true, the Bible, the stuff I learned from my parents and from good teachers, all backed up and combined with what that filter of the biblical truth. I think that's helped me have a place to start and have those non-negotiables of like, I'll hear your opinion on certain things, but I know what I believe on the Bible says is true, and that's not going to change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it can be difficult because in conversation with people, you still have to try and be charitable with them, even if you totally disagree with them and think they are so totally wrong. But I think as you're talking about forming opinions, I think there's a good way to form opinions, and I think there's a bad way to form opinions, and actually lots of bad ways to form opinions.
Or at least dangerous at a minimum.
Oh, that's good.
Say more.
I just think you can form opinions. Good and bad is very polarizing, but like there's a dangerous way. And I say dangerous because when you form your opinions without certain criteria of how you're landing at your final opinion, you can set yourself up for failure. Mm-hmm. And so it's a dangerous, like you're putting yourself in that risky situation if you're not doing the work up front. It's not necessarily bad that you have an opinion that's differing from other people. It's just, it can be dangerous if you're not well prepared. That's all. I just think it's a syntax.
And I think as we go about building opinions, right, what we should care about, a lot of people want to shape that. And there's a lot of ways we can shape that. We just watched The Social Dilemma last night, and so we're, kind of have that in the back of our minds. But I think it's a pretty easily seen thing that people are jockeying for your attention, and they want you to have an opinion or say a thing a certain way or agree with them on something. But I think as Christians, we're called to hold a different perspective, and one that isn't just agreeing for the sake of agreeing with other people. I think we're called to hold certain opinions that differ, even if it hurts sometimes. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I think that you say it's not worth agreeing just to agree. I also think it's not worth disagreeing just to disagree. I think that it's important to know why we believe things and how we are getting our information. We did the social dilemma, but I was talking before we even watched that with some friends about how our generation and as kids are being brought up continually, we get phones earlier and earlier. We get Instagram and Facebook, at a younger and younger age, and we get a lot of our information from the internet, whether it's news sources on the internet or social media or people emailing us a forwarded article or whatever it might be. And how do we know, where's that coming from? Is it true? Is it not true? We hear our school teachers say different things than we hear our parents say, than we hear at church, and there's just an overwhelming amount of information and of places to get all that information from, and we do have to be willing to read something and not just take it at face value for being true, or not just immediately dismiss it for being false. It's not just I think there has to be thought that goes into it.
And I think if we're going to have any thought about what goes into it, we kind of have to have a standard. We have to have a metric, if you will, of what gets formed, why does it get formed. And I think that needs to be the Bible. I think that needs to be our first baseline of what we go to on what I think about justice, what I think about social problems, social justice, there you go. What we do about what people think of us, how we prioritize that and rank that on the chain of how valuable am I based off of what people think of me? Well, that's a different perspective in our current social moment than it is as the Bible discusses it. Jake, do you have anything to say about standards of?
Yeah, I think it's important to, and this is kind of like what I said about being dangerous, right? You wouldn't use a screwdriver to put a nail into a board. You would use a hammer, right? So there's always a right tool for a job. And you're not setting yourself up for success if you don't use the right tools. So it's really tempting, and it's really, quite honestly, easy to develop your opinion and to adopt a certain stance in today's day and age because the information out there is so prevalent. You're constantly feeling all of your friends are posting about a certain issue, or you see a news company promoting a certain candidate for a political position, or all of this stuff, and it's coming at us in such overwhelming amounts that the easy thing to do is for us to just say, I'm going to jump on that bandwagon, but that's dangerous, right? Because then when we're pressured even a little bit about our opinion, when we encounter someone who disagrees with us, which is inevitable, right? Like, you're never going to just live your life in a way that no one ever disagrees with you. But if you don't prepare yourself appropriately to have the correct information and develop your opinion in a way that has critical thinking, and you've really hard fought your way to get that opinion, you're liable to fold when someone pressures you. You're going to potentially lose an argument, which is okay to lose, but you might be embarrassed that you weren't prepared, that you didn't have the right information, right? And so that's what's important about developing opinions, especially in terms of worldview. We're not talking politics here. We're talking about the things that we hold to be true about the Bible, about God, right? So at the base of all of that, we have one big tool that's been given to us. It's been told to us over and over and over, ironically from this said tool, that the Bible is supposed to be our go-to, right? If we have questions, we can ask them in prayer, and we can discern that through prayer, but we can also go and find it in the Bible. It's not just this book that's only in the context of the ancient Near East, right? We're talking about a book that actually has lessons and topics that transcend time. So if you encounter someone that has a differing opinion than you, that I can't believe that you feel strongly about this issue because such and such individual is suffering so much, or you're doing so wrong. The way you treated that person when you disagreed with them was just so cruel. How can you think that that person's wrong? And, there's a lot of social value in those relationships. But if you can't take what that person's bringing to you and weigh it against Scripture, then you need to seriously consider what they're actually telling you. Because they may be telling you something that doesn't hold up to what Jesus wants us to believe, right?
Yeah, I think we need to work very hard at and be very protective of guarding the standard of the Bible being our number one thing that we go to. Because I think it can be really easy to set up any other idol or any other system where that's our metric of like, oh, I'll have, more power or influence this way, or, oh, I'll have, maybe a better reputation, or, be liked more. And I suppose those are close to the same thing, but it can be really easy to change our ultimate standard for things. And that really governs, I think, even our base actions, how we interact with people at the grocery store, let alone how we choose to go out and shape the world into an image, right? I think if the Bible isn't our standard, I'm really worried about what our standard would become. And I think we really need to really strive to be protective of it in our hearts and in our lives as being the number one tool that we use to be able to judge and assess what goes on in the world and how we respond accordingly.
Yeah. And it can be easy to fold, or it can be easy to back down when someone questions your opinion. But like a personal example of something in my life that's been kind of reminiscent of this is the Bible tells us that iron sharpens iron, right? And we should surround ourselves with people that are edifying and uplifting to us. And so I have this dear friend who is very bold and very willing to speak truth, even at the cost of upsetting people. And this summer he came to me. We work a lot with college-age students on our staff, and part of my job is mentoring people. And so it's really easy for me to blur the line in terms of pouring in all of my energy and time and effort into our college students, and then dropping the ball with my family and not pouring into my wife, and spending quality time with her and making sure her needs are met, right? There's a biblical mandate that I'm setting the tone in this relationship, right? God's called me to be the leader in a lot of that respect. And so it is my job to do right by Sammy in terms of just giving her the time of day and pouring into her and giving her my undivided attention. That's just healthy for our relationship. And I was not doing well at that. And my friend came to me and, kind of kicked my teeth in and said, he basically was like, not even basically, he just said, "You're doing it wrong. You're wrong right now. You dropped the ball, figure it out." And it was very blunt. That's just kind of how he is. It was very, it doesn't sit well on your tongue when someone is that blunt with you. But in terms of my reaction, I want to be well, don't come to me and tell me how I'm supposed to live my life, right? I feel like I'm doing so well at this other thing here, at the pouring into our staff. So how can you say that I'm doing it wrong when I'm seeing a lot of success obviously in front of me in this regard, right? But when I take a step back and I weigh my actions against the Bible, and I weigh the things that Kevin brought to me against the Bible, and I think about am I really providing and being the husband and head of this household that I'm supposed to be? No, not really right now. My priorities are out of whack. And it's not that any of the things I'm doing are bad things. I just have got the wrong priorities in the wrong order right now. And so there's an example cut and clear that someone brought something to me that I don't want to hear. It makes me real, and it's very confrontational, and it's uncomfortable. But when I take some time and I try and discern where he's coming from, I can find that answer in the scripture. I can find it in the Bible, and it mirrors exactly what he told me, right? There's an ultimate baseline for how I'm supposed to act, and it matches up, right? So that's an opinion I need to pay attention to.
I think there's so much that highlights, and I think if I were to pick anything else, it would be something we've already discussed. But I think something else that jumps out to me is the value of having someone else be there with you and share that with you, because I don't think we're not supposed to be figuring this all out in a vacuum, right? Just reading all of this by myself and saying, this is exactly who I need to be. We need other people to do it with us. And that means inviting other perspectives and other opinions to sometimes shape our bad ones. And I think it takes a bite of humble pie to be able to say, I'm capable of having bad opinions. I'm really capable of it. Astonishingly easy for me to do that. And I need people alongside me to be able to come and say, well, this is the wrong way to do it. Let's try this, right? And I think having people being willing to do that in a kind and loving, gracious setting when it is called for. And sometimes it is a roundhouse to the teeth. You need to know this now, right? Wow, that's a lot to discuss and a lot to take in. A lot of opinions from the couch to filter through as you guys are all watching at home. We don't expect this to be like a one catch-all conversation. We covered a lot from discerning other people's perspectives, trying to build a proper perspective based on the Bible and the authority of the Bible. And there's so much there that we can't pretend like however long this video is going to do it and solve it all. This is going to take time and conversation with your friends and family and wise people that you're close with. And we are all ready and willing to share in the burden of discerning this and walking through this and really making sense of it. We're not trying to talk at you, we're trying to speak with you. And so as we wrap this up and as we, continue these conversations in other spaces, just know that we're not trying to solve it all in one fell swoop. So we're looking forward to catching you next time.
Yep. See
We're
ya.
praying for you.